welcome to episode 4 of the Out of Office Club. Thank you so much for coming back and listening to the next episode. This is the last episode I will record in Cusco, in Peru. I'm actually gonna be flying back in about 4 days. I'm gonna go back to Europe, and I don't really have any plans yet, so I don't really know what I'm gonna do yet. But this is my last episode recorded from Peru. And what I want to talk about today is some of the lessons that I've learned when I started working as a freelancer and as a digital nomad. Because 5 years ago, I started working for myself and completely online. And there's definitely a couple of mistakes and things that I wish I knew back then before starting. So if you are interested in maybe working as a freelancer or becoming a digital nomad, then this is the episode for you. So I will start by giving you a very brief overview of what I did before I started working online. And I started studying illustration and graphic design. I then switched to business management and marketing. And because one was very creative and the other was a bit more strict and more to do with data, I wanted to do kind of something in between, which to me was social media marketing. Still creative, but still to do with strategy and business. And that's how I started. And the way I did that was, to be honest, I just got very lucky. My dad has his own company in IT, and when I told him my idea of wanting to start for myself in social media marketing, he was like, "Oh, actually, that would be great for my company." So for my first client was my dad, and then my second client was a client of his, and that's kind of how I started. But at that moment, I already knew that I really wanted to work online. It's just from kind of past projects I'd done. I also did an internship at a very big international company, and I just realized how much I didn't like it. At the end, they asked me if I wanted to be added to their talent pool, like in case a job opening came, that you would be the kind of the first to know. And I was like, no, thank you. But this is not for me. And I think they noticed that as well. They were great, but it wasn't for me. That environment, that space. And I'd already by then done a bunch of projects by myself, like some crowdfunding, some little projects here and there for people, but never as serious. So then more I came towards my graduation, the more, of course, I was thinking, okay, what do I do now? And that's when I realized I'm going to do, I guess, what my dad also does and start for myself. So yeah, my first client was my dad, or my dad's company. And then second client was one of his clients. And that's how I started. So, of course, I got lucky. I had someone in my network who needed exactly what I was offering. But that is also something I tell anyone who wants to start. Tell your network. I think there's a lot more power in your network than you might realize. People that either need your services or know someone that does. Plus, don't forget, these are people that already know you and they already trust you. And that is something difficult to get with a stranger. They need to trust you in order to work with you. It's not just about what you can do for them. They need to like you and trust you, and your network already does. And that's why I think your network is so powerful. But yeah, that was my first client. And I can tell you, it was lucky that that was my dad, someone I could ask feedback from, who was very clear with me and what was good, what was not good. I could ask him the very basic questions because I honestly had no idea what I was doing. I studied business, but it's not like they told me how to write an invoice, how to set up a company, how to actually do the client communication. And that is something I definitely struggled with. So, one of my main lessons, something that I think took me a little bit to learn, but it's just crucial if you work for yourself, but also if you just generally work with clients is expectation management. Something I definitely haven't always done right. And that always came back to bite me in the ass, because the most important thing you need to take care of when you work with a client is managing their expectations. People don't know exactly what they want or what they need. They have an idea of, oh, we want someone for social media, we want someone for marketing or a copywriter, but they don't know exactly what that work entails. They don't know exactly how they can get results, what kind of results to expect. And that is why expectation management is so important. Especially with something like social media management. There's people that might have never used social media, and then they hire a social media manager thinking 2 months, then we'll have 100,000 followers and we'll be good. And that's where your expectation management comes in. You need to share some of your knowledge and go, no, this is how it's going to work. This is exactly what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to deliver it. And these are the kind of results to expect. Because then you're going to kind of set yourself up for success. Your client knows what they can expect from you. And you've communicated very directly to your client what you're going to do for them and how. And that is something that I have messed up a couple times. But it is really, really important. The second one is, of course, just the communication. In the end, yes, they are your clients and they want a service from you, but you're going to have to chase up on them very often. Clients are very busy with running their business, and generally they outsource this because it is something that they don't want to do, cannot do, maybe not care about enough, regardless of how important it is for their company. So your communication in that is just really, really important. Even if they don't reach out to you, make sure you check in with them. Update them on what you're doing, because a lot of your work sometimes might be a bit invisible. Yes, I'm just going to stay with the example of social media marketing. Yes, you post on Instagram, but you also do research into the target audience. You do market research. You might have set up templates. You looked at the data. You've written a report. All of these things that the client might not see as a direct result, because it's easy for them to see the posts that you posted on their social media, but not everything that went before. They might also not even know that you do that. So it's very important that you actively kind of communicate with them and say, hey, look, I made this report. Hey, I made all of these templates. Because that also shows them, one, how much work you're actually doing, how important all of that is, and that there is some type of process. Even if they don't see a post every day, you are working on it. And there is like something happening. Because I've been fired because people or the company didn't think I was doing anything. Well, I was very busy doing all of my research, but before I was able to show that, they just thought it went too slow. And that is, on my side, bad communication, bad expectation management. So those things are just so important. And then something else I wish I knew sooner was how to price myself. It is very hard when you first start and you're offering a service, but you don't know how much to ask. So you go online and you just look at what other people are doing and you kind of copy that. And I'm not saying that's a bad place to start, that is good, but take with that also, how much do you actually know? Like, what is your knowledge and your skill level? I had 2 degrees, so I need to take that into account. But then, of course, I don't have a portfolio, so like that balances it. So there's more to it than just what are other people doing, because there's always gonna be people that charge less than you and more than you. And in the end, you need to remember the value that you bring to that company, the work that you kind of take away from them, your expertise. Plus, I might charge the same as someone else. Let's say we have the same education, we charge the same thing, we do the same services. But in the end, the company is also going to choose you because of you. They will want to work with you because of who you are. I've had interviews also for my own company, or for clients of mine, where I was trying to find a freelancer for a specific job. And sometimes there was someone more qualified than the person I hired. But I just simply didn't click with that person. And for a lot of, especially smaller companies, it's more important to them that they also like who they work with than that you have the absolute best qualifications. So they'll keep that in mind, because when I was traveling, I remember talking to someone who said, "Oh, you work online, that must be very tough." I said, "Well, I'm doing okay. Not great, but I'm doing all right." He said, "Yeah, because my wife is also working online, and she's finding it really tough to find any projects and get any work." And when I asked a bit more about it, he said, "Well, she has like all of this experience. She worked with really big international brands that I recognized." And he said, "Yeah, but she can only charge like 15 euros an hour." And I was in, I think, Ireland at the time. So 15 euros an hour is not a lot, especially not when you're in North Europe. Um, so I was like, "What do you mean? Why is she only charging 15 euros an hour? Like, I don't have a portfolio that impressive and I charge more." So I started doubting myself as well. But then I realized, he said, "No, but she looked online and there's all these people that charge less." I was like, "Yeah, but that's the wrong mindset. You'll never be the cheapest, because there's people in more developing countries where living is cheaper and they can afford to charge less." But again, it's not just what you charge, it's because they want to work with you. And then, of course, costs come into play, and you need to be strategic with it. And you can't just charge whatever you want because you want 200 euros an hour. It needs to fit the market, what you offer, your expertise, but also think about your own living expenses, because it still needs to be worth it for you. Of course, I could charge 10 euros an hour and I might get more work, but that means I wouldn't be able to pay for my travels and pay for my normal day to day. Plus, don't forget the power of kind of the psychology people have with price. I mean, how often do you go to the supermarket and do you see the same product? One is €1 and the other is €3. And in your head, you go, "Oh, the €3 one must be better." People associate higher price with better quality and higher value. So also don't undersell yourself, because then people are going to be, "Oh, why is this so cheap? Why are they offering this service so cheap? Must not be very good." So keep all of that. I know it's a lot and I know it's confusing, but keep all of that in mind when you are trying to decide how much to charge for your services. Check the market. Keep in mind your knowledge, your expertise, your experience. Find out, of course, what others are charging. Have a look, see what's happening so you get an idea. Make sure you understand your own living expenses and what you kind of need to charge. Keep in mind taxes as well. And add your value. People want to work with you. So don't undersell yourself or undervalue yourself. I've seen it a lot, and I've sometimes done it myself as well. And you'll see, if you just sometimes pick a slightly higher price, companies will still reach out to you because they think you might, give also a higher outcome or better outcome. And a lot of companies will still ask you, "Oh, can we, negotiate the price a bit?" And then because you've priced yourself just a little bit higher, you have room to do so. And if they say, "Oh, if we do a bigger project, could we get a little bit of discount?" And you can say yes, because you've priced yourself accordingly, according to your worth and your, expertise. And then you can still decide on the price a little bit later. I think that's an important one. And then the third thing I think that I would recommend anyone who's starting out online is to not get too comfortable. And I know that sounds almost like a warning, and it kind of is, but this is a mistake I've made, I think maybe 2 or 3 times now. And every time I think to myself, why did I do that? And it really comes down to getting too comfortable. At some point, I had a lot of work, and basically my hours were full. And then I did absolutely no marketing, no posting, no applying for months. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, I lost 3 clients. Two of them stopped the project I was working on, and one of them had to completely cancel the expansion to the Netherlands to the Netherlands that I was working on. And that happened within 2 weeks. So I lost about 70% of my income within 2 weeks. And because I had done no marketing, no kind of like outbound marketing, no applying, no emailing, no networking, nothing, I didn't have almost like a wait list or people I could reach out to and say, hey, we spoke. Are you still interested? Or, there was nothing. And suddenly I had to go and try my best to find new clients. And that is just a very, very stressful moment that you don't really want to find yourself in. So, what I would recommend anyone who is starting, that even if you're like, oh, I think I'm at my max, still go out and try to find new clients, even if it means that you might have to say no to a project or a company right now. It is still good practice. They still might remember you for future projects. They might recommend you even to someone else. You don't know. But you've kind of created that link so that maybe in 6 months when you're scrambling for projects or one of them kind of gets cancelled, you can go and reach out to that company and say, hey, do you still need someone? And it's a lot easier to connect or reconnect than it is to still have to go and connect, because that can take weeks or months. So those are kind of my main things that I did wrong when I started. And of course, again, I was lucky that my first clients were people I knew very well. So I was allowed to make more mistakes. I got more feedback. And even then, I still afterwards messed up multiple times. And I am definitely not proud of those. And all of it is learning. You're on your own. All your work is your own responsibility. You try your best. And I've also worked with companies where it just didn't match. And we split ways for other reasons. There's companies I worked with that I didn't deliver good work, which I'm definitely not proud of. So yeah, there's just so many different scenarios and so many ways you can learn, especially when you work for yourself. And it can be stressful, but I do think it's worth it. The gratification I get from my work is a lot. When I'm actually proud of what I delivered and I'm happy and it's good work, I absolutely love it. So those are my main kind of lessons from when I started. I'm not saying I do everything right now because I still make mistakes here and there, but I think that's part of the whole kind of online work / like freelance path that everyone goes on. And yeah, I would still highly recommend it to anyone if they want to go freelance. Anyway, that kind of concludes what I wanted to say today. So if you enjoyed it, if you want to know more, if you have any questions, don't forget to follow the podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, then don't forget to subscribe. Please also follow me on Instagram. That's where I share a lot more about my travel details, things I'm doing, things I'm seeing in wherever country I'm at. And then if you have any questions, leave me a comment. I'll try my best to respond, or I might even give you the answer in another podcast episode. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.